Hey there, lovely listeners. Welcome to Uniquely Wired Podcast. I'm your host, Nani. On this podcast, we uncover the beauty and nature of autism through heartfelt conversations. Let's jump in. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Uniquely Wired Podcast. I know that I had mentioned that on this episode, we were going to have a guest speaker, which was going to be Julie Carter, who is an attorney. But unfortunately, she is not able to be here with us on this episode because she is feeling ill. She's not feeling too well. So just sending lots of prayers her way. But the good thing is that she will be joining us for next week's episode, which is the last episode of season 2. I know I am a little sad, but I know, it's for us, well, for me to be able to rest. I believe in rest 100%, and I tell y'all this all the time on the podcast. Um but I also want to shout out my listeners, my followers on Instagram. I just want to say thank you for your kind words, your feedback, your comments, your reviews. Um it's just been such an amazing journey thus far with the podcast and just having you guys part of it. So thank you so much. And also, the last episode got so much feedback. So thank you guys for spreading the word and, just sharing this podcast with family and friends. So thank you again. Um, so, on this episode, I would love to talk about something that I haven't gotten the chance to speak about on the podcast, and that is on creating routines for your autistic child. Um, and yes, I have a little iPad, you guys, for those that are watching. Shout out to my friend Megan from church. She blessed me with this cute iPad. Um, but yeah, so I want to talk today about creating routines for your autistic child. Now, please keep in mind this is just general, right? This is just general like things I'm going to mention. Um keep in mind that you are going to do what works for your family and what's going to be best for your children or your child when it comes to routine, because I know every child deals with routines differently, transitions differently. So, again, you can, modify these bullet points that I'm going to share with you today on this podcast, um, on this episode, sorry, to your liking, to your comfort, to your child's comfort. Um, Routines have been very, very helpful in my household with both of my kids. The saying that goes around that says, consistency is key is such a simple, like, quote, but yet so true. It really is, you know, key to have consistency, to be able to see the growth in our children, to be able to see, just regulation in their bodies, in their minds, in their life, consistency. It's consistency that's going to get you there, right? Because we can try something one day and then give up so easily, right? Because it doesn't work out for whatever reason, but we've only given it one try. We have not been consistent with that, right? I don't know about you, but I've been there where I'm like, I try something and it doesn't work. And I just go based on like that one day that I tried it and I didn't like it. That's it. And I'm done. um, and I get it. Like, we go through those moments, right? I'm not saying that I don't, because I have gone through that. But I've learned that having this consistency has been key for my children, and actually for me and my husband as well, just for the house in general. Um and I think routine, whether you have autistic children or not, whether you only have one autistic child and then the rest are neurotypical, guess what? It works for them too. It works for the typical child as well. I think routines in general, even for us as adults, they'd work. Okay. So I remember in the beginning when I first had my daughter, because she's my firstborn. I remember people would tell me, oh my gosh, try this routine. You should try that routine. You should try this. And this was before she was even diagnosed. Like all I kept on hearing was like, just keep her on a feeding schedule, keep her. And in my head, I was like, are these people crazy? Like listen, I love to organize and I like staying organized. However, I like to also go with the flow every once in a while, depending the situation. And in that case, I was like, I'm gonna just go with the flow because she's still a baby. I'm still getting to know her. She's getting to know this new world, right? So, but once she got her diagnosis in 2018, I really saw how crucial it was to have a routine. And so, then my son came into the picture. And what helped me was that once I had Jacob, life was a little easier. Why? Because I had already established a routine with Eliana, my daughter, that by the time he came into the family, things were already settled. I just had to get him into the routine. And the best time to do it too, listen, it's never too late, but I would say the best time to do it is when they are young, when they are little in that toddler age, right? So I'm going to share with you guys, let me see how many points I have here. I have 10 that I want to cover really quick. And I have my notes. So number one, establish consistent daily routines. Just listen, I know in my case, and again, everything I'm sharing is based on my example. I'm not using nobody as an example, but myself and my family. Because like I've mentioned, I'm going to preach to y'all what I'm already living. Okay. So, with my daughter, she already knows when it's school time, when it's bedtime, when it's bath time. She knows, and so does my son. All I have to say is mention what it's about to happen, and they already know what's expected from them, right? So in Eliana's case, she comes home from school, takes her shoes off, puts them under the entry table, takes her clothes off upstairs, and I go ahead and change her to, regular clothes to be in the house. Jacob, same thing. He's still struggling with like taking his shoes off and things like that, but I go ahead and help him. I'm already building that routine with him because he's seeing his sister do it. Now he knows, okay, this is what's going to be expected of me as well, right? So establishing these routines, it's crucial. And I'm not saying, okay, as we go on with this episode, I am not saying that this is going to be life every single day. Because listen, things happen, emergencies happen, our children get sick, we get sick. And so those routines might be looking a little different than what they normally do on a regular day. But just know that it'll be easier to bounce back into that regular routine than to not have one at all, right? So consistent routines provide predictability and structure, which can be comforting for autistic individuals. Establish regular times for waking up, meals, activities, and bedtime to create a sense of stability and security. I know for my kids, like if we stay anywhere, it could be summertime. And if we're on vacation, the routine stays the same. And I'm going to tell you this, my daughter specifically, like if it's been past the regular time I would normally put her to bed, she will tell us bedtime, bedtime, or she'll go on her communication device and like request to go to bed. Crazy, right? But this is what consistency does. Number two, use visual schedules. If your child does not have a device, you can use a pegboard. You can print out pictures. You can get visual schedules from Etsy. If you're familiar with Etsy, if not, Amazon, I'm sure has some. So these visual schedules represent tasks, right? And activities in sequential order. They help individuals who are autistic to understand that what will happen next and can reduce anxiety by providing visual cues for transitions. So, you're not just throwing things into your child's routine. You're not just expecting something from them. Our children need a little bit of more support than that of a neurotypical child that already knows their expectations. Our children who are autistic and have a developmental delay, we have to push them a little, right? And just remind them, right, of what's expected of them. And so, listen, in this household, we are broken records. We are broken records in this household when it comes to repeating ourselves to our children, reminding them of what's expected, of them. Like if she's taking off her shoes, but I notice that she gets home and she goes straight to do something else rather than taking off her shoes, then I'll just have to remind her. Like, Ellie, remember, take your shoes off. She already knows what that means. She'll go and do it. But yes, just know, mom and dad, that you might sound like a broken record, but it is okay. Okay. It's okay. You're not alone. Number 3, break task into small steps. That's another one. Don't just tell your kids, like, do this, do that, do this. Listen, no, that's too much. Like, take it easy, start one thing at a time. So breaking tasks and activities into smaller manageable steps makes them more achievable for autistic individuals. Okay, this approach helps prevent overwhelm overwhelm and promotes success by allowing the individual to focus one step at a time. This is important just for life. This is important for us as parents. Okay. Listen, this is important because sometimes we're trying to rush through. No, take your time, one thing at a time. It's okay. Number 4, offer choices within the routine. I love this one. Providing choices within the routines gives autistic individuals a sense of control and autonomy, right? So they feel like, oh, independent. Like, give them choices. Okay, would you like to eat this or this? Would you like to do this today or this, right? And it could be choices of two depending on your child's, understanding level. um I could show like 4 options of food to my son and he'll be able to pick which one he wants. So really, just go based on what your child understands, what's better for them. um and I think that's just great. Again, it gives them that sense of independence, right? Number 5, include sensory breaks. Sensory breaks allow individuals who are autistic, right, to regulate their sensory systems and reduce sensory overload. Incorporate sensory activities such as swinging, jumping, or deep pressure into the routine to promote relaxation and self regulation. This is an important one in my household. I don't know about you that's listening, but my kids, they need to be regulated. Eliana comes home from school and she is so dysregulated because unfortunately her school, you know, they're not fully equipped to give her those sensory breaks. So she loves to swing. And so she has a swing now in her room. um and she loves it. She loves swinging. It just helps her regulate. I also, now that the weather's getting better down here in the East Coast, we're officially, in spring season, then I let her just go outside rather than going to her tablet as soon as she comes into the house after school, which is normally what she would do. Now I just hide the tablets and she has no choice but to either go outside or entertain herself else doing something else within the house. um so yeah, sensory breaks are important, and even for us as parents too. I know I need my little mental breaks every so often. Number 6, anticipate and prepare for transitions. Transitions can be challenging for a lot of autistic individuals. I won't say all of them because in my case, my children are pretty good with transitions or anything new that's presented to them. But I know families that have autistic children that have a very, very hard time with transitions. So just keep that in mind. You know, it's essential to anticipate and prepare them in advance. So again, using those visual schedules, the timers, the countdowns. I know when I do homework with my daughter, I put a little timer on the table, just letting her know, okay, this is how much we have left. And I'm constantly reminding her as we are working together. I'm just reminding her, hey, it's almost time to be done, right? The time to be done, it's almost here, but we are still working. So just giving them those, listen, just reassure your child. That's all I'm saying. Reassure them. Number 7, maintain flexibility and allow to be spontaneous here and there, right? So while routines are important, it's also essential to be flexible and be spontaneous within the routines every once in a while. For example, summer's coming. A lot of you families are probably, traveling or having getaways with your family. I'm not saying, you need to stop doing these things because your child has routines, and you shouldn't stop doing fun things with your family because your autistic child has a routine, like a strict routine. You should still be okay with being flexible and getting them used to, listen, it's okay to be spontaneous every once in a while. This weekend we are staying here. This weekend we're doing this, or this weekend we're doing that. Just prepare them in advance. And you can do that by doing stories, right? Showing them the pictures, showing them videos of where it is that you're going. That's a good one too. A lot of kids are visual. I know I'm a visual person. So go on YouTube, and if you're going to Disney, show them a video of Disney so they have an idea. And I guarantee you that by the time your Disney trip comes, they're going to be like, wow, I'm pretty sure their mind is going to go back to that one video you show them. Right? So I think every day when my daughter received her glasses, I had to every day till it led up to her having the glasses, I was reading to her a book of a girl having glasses and getting new glasses and how she was going to look different, but that's okay. Different is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it. So again, keep in mind to be flexible. Yes, routines are important in my household, but again, be flexible. I know that in some cases you just can't, you have to stick to it, right? And I'll give you an example. Tonight, the day I'm recording this episode, I am going to be preaching at the church my parents go to. Their youth at their church and their young adults, they're having a service dedicated to them. So they invited me as a guest speaker to, bring the word of God and just encourage them, right? Through the word of God. And so my mom was like, bring one of the kids, I'll watch them. And I was like, no, mom, because by 8:30 p.m., and it's a weekday at that. It's not like a Friday, it's a Thursday, right? So my kids already know 8:30 hits, they're getting in the shower, they're brushing their teeth, they're getting ready to go to bed. So I don't want to just throw them off randomly. My daughter or my son has never been to this church specifically where my parents go. They've been used to my church. They've been used to a certain routine in our church. And so that's going to be a little hard. If it was a different day, then cool, like a Saturday or perhaps a Friday. But because it's like so random during the week, like on a Thursday, I don't want to do that to them. And plus, I have not prepared them, either one of them, for this day. So it's okay also to sometimes say no and stick to your routine, depending the situation. And you know what? Your family should be understanding. Your friends should be understanding. Um, like we don't really go anywhere during the week with the kids when it comes to, especially during school time, I would say, to be specific. During the school season, we just literally school, come home, and the only days that we step out is for church on Wednesday nights and then obviously Sundays. But like during the week, yeah, that's that. Because it's hard, right? Unless, and I also have to go, I'm sure a lot of families can relate to this. We also have to go based on how our kids are doing that day and how have they been doing that day as well. So just always keep that in mind. It's okay to say no. You don't have to be in everything with your family, but also be okay with having spontaneous moments. Um, but I understand also, I do want to mention, I do understand that for some families, it's difficult. For some families, their kids are, you know, depending on that routine. And so if you are a family that's not so used to being spontaneous and just, going with the flow and you just been stuck with that routine, then I understand that being spontaneous could be scary. So also keep that in mind. I see you. Number 8, provide positive reinforcement. So, positive reinforcement encourages desired behaviors and helps motivate individuals, right, who are autistic to follow up the routine. Use praise reward or preferred activities to reinforce participation and success in completing tasks within the routine. And so this is like if you want them to do homework in school, they should be using this a lot, positive reinforcement. With my son, a lot of the times, like if he wants something, I'm like, okay, can we finish this first? Right? I usually would tell him, like, can we color with mama? Can we do this first? Can we go for a run outside really quick, up and down? And then you'll get your goldfish, or then you'll get your apple juice. And, like that. And just building those positive reinforcements is just key as well for our children to have successful routines. Um, Maybe your child struggles with bath time. My son was there a couple times. It's like he went from like struggling with bath time to not struggling to loving bath time forever and then hating it. Like he has a love and hate relationship with bath time. Honestly, he really does. I'm convinced. Um However, like that's something that I will use a positive reinforcement. So if that's something your child struggles with, try those positive reinforcement. If bedtime is a hard thing, build a routine within the bedtime. Not necessarily, put aside the routine you already have for your child or your children throughout the day. And if bedtime is a struggle and it's a challenge, then maybe build a routine for bedtime specifically. Do something new. Don't just expect them to go to bed. Throw them in their room like, all right, figure it out and go to sleep. No, maybe build something. Maybe if you're a Christian family and you pray with them before bedtime, read to them a little story, maybe play with them, tickle them, get them tired, and then close the door and see if they'll go to bed. Like last night, Eliana, it's been a while since she's had a hard night, but last night she was having a hard time, and we looked through her room camera and we noticed that she was just standing there. We're like, what is she doing? We take her swing down at night because we don't want it to be a distraction, and we know it can be a distraction. And so we take it down every night. But she was just standing there. She was getting a little antsy, but we kind of like not ignored her because that sounds bad, but somewhat just let her be and gave her her space. And then my husband eventually had to go into the room like, hey, are you okay? We brought her tablet to her device so she can tell us if she wanted something. She didn't really want nothing. I think she was just dysregulated and maybe her brain just couldn't shut down. And so he stayed with her for a little bit, my husband, and eventually she went to sleep. So, I think sometimes we got to remember that there are going to be hard times for our children, that those routines may not work. There are some days that the routine, that perfect routine you have with your child, may not work. But that doesn't mean you stop then and give up. No, if anything, it should push you and motivate you to keep going with the routine. It's going to take time. For some children, listen, they hop on routines quick. For other children, it might take a little longer. And you really have to use that patience. You really do. Number 9, model and practice routines together. You have to have the routine as well. Because if you forget to brush your child's teeth, but you have been consistent for the past few weeks to brush their teeth by a certain time, let's say it's bedtime for them, or it's time to step out and go to school, and they already know that they're supposed to brush their teeth before going to school, but you forget that, uh yeah, that's going to be a problem. So just remember to model the routine yourself and practice it together with your child to provide guidance and support. Use visual prompts, verbal cues, and physical assistance as needed to help your child learn and master the routine. I have shared on my Instagram the app. Well, no, the company called Goalie, which I'll share the link down below, and you can get a discount with my code. You can have a discount on your first purchase. I wish I had it with me, but it's a little device. I've shared it on my page before. And there I have like ways how to brush your teeth. And it's step by step on how I do it, right? I'm modeling for Eliana. And so every morning she'll watch that video. She knows, grab the toothpaste, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, start brushing. And while it may not be perfect or the way I want her to be, right, in proficient or whatever the case may be, she's getting there and she's trying. And that to me is something to celebrate. When your child tries to do something you're wanting them to do, that should be exciting to you and a celebration because they are trying, and trying is everything to me. I'm not looking for perfection, and you should not be looking for perfection because you can get discouraged, right? So Goalie is a great device. I've had many families purchase it and use my discount. I think you get up to a 20% off your order. And it's a great device. You can record anything. You want them to learn how to tie their shoes? Go ahead and record it on Goalie, doing it yourself, and have them watch step by step. You want them to get dressed? Do that as well. And it's something that I've been using with Aliana going on a year already, and it's been fantastic. And I plan on using it with Jacob as well. So modeling is key for sure. Um, and number 10, to end this episode, seek professional support if needed. Listen, don't let that pride get in, mom and dad, because I know what that is. I've done it. And I'll be honest, sometimes I do it. I let the pride creep in when it comes to my children and what I can do for my children because I know my children, because I know what my children need and, what they want at the moment. But it is important to have a support around us, whether it's one person, whether it's a whole group, it doesn't matter, but have support. If you're having difficulty establishing or maintaining routines, seek guidance from professionals such as therapists, behavior analysts, right? ABA, or special educators. They can help provide personalized strategies and support to help your family create effective routines that meet your child's specific needs. Remember, it's good to go with professionals. And I will say this from experience because, listen, social media is filled with lots of autism families, right? It's a community that continues to grow. And so I'm not saying don't seek support from other families that maybe have been in this journey longer than you, but just keep in mind that their child is not your child. And so, yes, while you can try all these strategies that I just gave you, while you can try, different routines, you can try maybe the routine I'm trying with my child, but guess what? It's not guaranteed that it's going to work. Why? Because your schedule may be different than mine. Most likely. Your children are different than mine. Listen, I will say this. My son is different from my daughter, and they're both autistic. And so there's a difference in their routine. While there's still a routine in place, their routines look a little different for many things around the house. So you got to remember that yes, it's okay to follow other families and get advice and get tips and things like that. But always remember that it is okay to get help from a professional. If there's therapies that your children are receiving, talk to their therapist and say, hey, what do you think, based on my child's IEP, what should work, right? What could work for their routine specifically? Are there any tips or strategies that you can give me based on my child's IEP and their goals? Because remember, routines, you're also helping your child, um, you know, become an independent adult. And listen, it may not look like the way you want it to look like when it comes to independence, but you're still giving them that, right, that path of independence. You're allowing them that. So just keep that in mind, families. I really just wanted to share these 10 strategies that I think could work for you and your family. So give it a try. Give it a try. If you don't have routine, give it a try. If you do have a routine, please share, leave a comment. Let me know how your routine is helping you and your child. And that will be awesome. So yeah. So God willing, we are able to have Julie next week for the last episode of season 2 to educate us on the law of special education and, what are things that you can do as a parent when it comes to your child's right um, as an autistic individual and for you as the parent, because we all have rights, right? But when it comes to special needs and autism and IEPs and things like that, there's a different level to it. So I'm excited for that. But thank you guys for joining me. And I will see you again on next week's episode. And that's a wrap wrap for today's episode of Uniquely Wired Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this space with me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share. Until next time.